What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sector for Nerds, and welcome to another episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars Retro Discussions. Today we're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 19, Storm Over Ryloth. First up, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, leave your comments down below regarding any questions or comments that you want me to talk about regarding Clone Wars Season 1, because in a couple weeks' time, after we wrap up with all of the episodes in Season 1, we're gonna do a separate video talking about my overall thoughts on Season 1, and I'll kind of give you guys my thoughts, my opinions, the good, the bad, the ugly, but anything that you guys want me to bring up, I will gladly bring up. You just gotta leave it in the comments below so I know to bring it up. I'll probably put a community post out about this too, so keep an eye out for that. That might be the place to put it as well. Alright, you guys, so this episode was directed by Brian Callen O'Connell and written by George Christic. Cookie for this episode, it's a rough road that leads to the heights of greatness. Ain't that the frickin' truth? And now it's time to bring out the man that some people enjoy more than me on these videos, and that is Intro Guy. So without any further ado, I'm gonna let him take it away, do his thing. Planet Ryloth invaded. Subject to a brutal droid occupation, the people of Ryloth are starving under the blockade of a separatist fleet. Evil separatist leader Wat Tambor now rules with an iron fist. Answering a plea from the Senate, the Grand Army of the Republic mounts a bold offensive to liberate the system. It is up to Anakin Skywalker and his padawan Ahsoka to make way for Obi-Wan's ground assault. As always, thank you, Intro Guy. You did a great job. Good. Now get out of here. To those that might think I don't pay Intro Guy enough money, you are incorrect. I don't pay him anything. But anyway, you guys, let's talk about this episode. And as he brought up, the people of Ryloth are now under separatist rule. This is part 1 of a 3-episode arc in this show. And one of the things that I really enjoy just about like this arc overall is each episode has a different feel to it. And each episode centers on different characters. And this one, it's about Anakin and Ahsoka. You know, 2 characters we know a little bit about at this point because of the show. We've seen them a couple times in the show. But this episode is a big deal for Ahsoka. It's her first day at command. Now, I tell you what, you guys, some of the scenes in this episode, especially at the beginning during the battle scene, some of those scenes were added in. Because I remember, like, on Cartoon Network, not all of those scenes aired. Especially the scene where Anakin goes down to the hangar to talk with Ahsoka before the mission starts. That was never on Cartoon Network. At least from what I remember. But I thought it was a nice scene because, like, it showed how nervous Ahsoka was and Anakin being like, hey, look, if I didn't feel confident sending you out there, I wouldn't. This is a lot of pressure for Ahsoka. This is, like, really our first big, large-scale battle when it comes to, like, taking over a planet. And that's why I was saying before, like, each, you know, episode has different characters that we center on because each character has different tasks when it comes to recapturing the planet. And for Anakin and Ahsoka, it's breaking the blockade. Now, Dave was talking about in the featurette for this episode that originally Anakin was going to be out there with his own squad, but George wanted it changed so that Ahsoka could lead the attack, which I completely agree with, because I think if you're going to get the most out of this scene, like if you would have had Anakin out there with Ahsoka, he could have easily came in and saved the day and maybe rectified the situation that Ahsoka was put in. But because she disobeyed, or because she was out there by herself and she was choosing to disobey orders, it added that much more to the story that they were trying to tell. And this is our first, like, big space battle too, I think, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to the show. Like, I know we had some stuff with, like, the Malevolence, but here it's like we've got, you know, capital ship combat, we've got fighter combat. But why does Ahsoka ignore orders? Well, it's because that the Separatists bring in 4 more enemy cruisers to join their blockade. There was originally a Lucrehulk there, and then you also had, like, 2, like, what are they, like, Banking Clan frigates, or I don't know the proper name for them, but CIS frigates, whatever. And then 4 more of them join the blockade. And so they end up, you know, surrounding the fighters, and it's like, uh-oh. But Ahsoka's, like, so persistent and like, we need to break through the blockade. We need to break through the blockade. And to the credit of like her soldiers as well, especially like Axe, I believe it was, who was like, I would assume like the captain of the squad or something like that. But he was very persistent as well and like willing to follow Ahsoka's orders. Even when they were caught in a trap, like they were going to follow her orders till the end. Like it was to the point then where when Ahsoka ordered them to fall back, that he was like, wait, why are we retreating? And she's like, we're not retreating, we're following orders.
They're breaking our lines.
Ahsoka, we are in trouble. I order you back here.
All right. Let's go, squad. Go back to the command ship.
Why are we retreating?
We're not retreating. We're following orders.
This episode gives us another new villain for our heroes to defeat. This has kind of been a common trend, especially in the back half of season 2, right? Because that way we're not constantly defeating Grievous and Ventress over and over and over again. This is Martuk, I believe his name is. Another Neimoidian, so another of New Gunray species. I think for like a one-episode villain, he had like a somewhat interesting arc. There's some scenes later on in the episode after the Republic retreats where he gets like, bring me the archive data on General Skywalker. He tells one of his battle droids this, and he starts to study his opponent. And then it gets to the point then where he's like, all right, we need to prepare for another attack because if Skywalker, if his records indicate anything, he's going to be back. And he has a conversation with Watambor, and he's like, look, I admire Skywalker as a general. His records show he's a great warrior, he's a great leader, and I want him to know that it's I who has beaten him. Which is something I respected, because like one of the things that I never like is when, you know, like another opponent tries to bring down an opponent being like, oh, you suck and you're stupid. And the way I always look at that, and this goes for like anything when it comes to like pro fights or pro wrestling or anything like that. Like you can talk trash to your opponent all day long, don't get me wrong, but like if you don't put them over at some point for being like a good fighter or a good wrestler, whatever the case is, then if you end up losing, then you basically are losing to someone who sucks, right? If that's your whole perception of them, if you lose to someone who sucks, but even if you beat them, well, you beat someone that sucks, so what's the big deal? And that's the way that I look at this episode. So if now Tuck ends up beating Anakin, it's like, wow, yeah, no, he just beat a freaking Jedi general, someone who's really good at what he does. And if Anakin beats him, it's like, well, he just, you know, beat a dude that very much studied him, didn't underestimate him. He was on his A game. Also, a really random fun fact about Mark Tuck that I did not know until I watched the featurette for this episode. Apparently, he's named after Dave's cat.
You want to say where the name Mark Tuck comes from?
It actually is named after Dave's cat. His name is Took, so I named the Neimoidian admiral after his kitty.
Good cat.
One of the big reasons why I love this episode so much, and this honestly might be one of my favorite episodes of season 1, but the conversations between Anakin and Ahsoka. First one they have, it's like, look, I know you meant well, Snips, but there's a bigger picture you're not understanding. The first rule of war is to listen and obey your superiors, and Ahsoka's just sitting there feeling all of this guilt because she pretty much lost her entire squadron, including Axe. And then we get the second conversation between them where Anakin's like, yeah, I talked with Master Windu, which that's a whole conversation too. Anakin talks with Obi-Wan and Mace, and Obi-Wan's like, give Ahsoka time, Anakin, but you will need a help if you're going to get through this. And they're talking about, we need to break the blockade now. If we don't do it now, we're going to have to postpone the invasion. The longer the Techno-Union controls Ryloth, it's going to be more difficult to free them. And so then that's when we get Ahsoka in the medical room with Admiral Yularen. I guess that's something I know I'm bouncing around all over the place right now, but I'm just thinking of things that I want to talk about. So Yularen ends up, before Ahsoka retreats, Yularen gets hurt because a vulture droid crashes into the bridge, frickin' Return of the Jedi A-Wing style.
Fighter squadron, where are you?
Cool your jets, Admiral. We're almost there.
It's too late.
Run for it!
Admiral, come in. Admiral!
Hang on, Admiral.
Get us out of here.
And so he gets severely injured. Ahsoka's sitting there like, Admiral, I'm so sorry. They're all gone. And then that's when she leaves to go have that second conversation with Anakin. And then you kind of see that Yularen was awake, so you kind of knew that she felt bad. And Anakin's like, yeah, I talked with Master Windu. We're going to resume our attack on the blockade. We're going to go through with it. And Ahsoka's like, wait, what? But we can. And you said don't worry last time, but now everyone's gone. My whole squadron's gone. We can't just break the blockade. And then Anakin tells her to go back to her quarters, cool off. We'll finish the talk later. And then we get the third conversation, and this comes after the Defender is evacuated. So the Republic went in with 3 Venators in this battle. There was the Resolute, the Defender, and the Redeemer. The Redeemer got destroyed during the battle, The Defender apparently had been severely damaged, so they evacuated everybody onto the Resolute. Anakin says, look, I've got a plan. He kind of takes to heart some of the things that Ahsoka tells him earlier, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna just fly the Defender into the enemy ship and take out the commander. This way I'm the only one at risk, and the Defender's damaged already. Which makes sense. Like, you look at the Defender later, it's like this thing is in no condition for battle. Also, the music during that scene when they're evacuating everybody from the Defender is such good music. Shout out Kevin Kiner. And don't get me wrong, Kevin Kiner did a phenomenal job throughout the entirety of Clone Wars. But this is one of those themes that sticks out, and I feel like every time I play a Clone Wars game, I'll hear that music, so well done.
All right, men. All right. This way. Come on, move it. Move it. Let's go. No time to waste.
Master, I'm almost afraid to ask.
I ordered the Defender evacuated.
I can see that. Why?
Actually, I got the idea from you.
Oh, great.
Now, if Anakin's going to be dealing with the Defender, who's going to be in charge of the Resolute? Well, it's none other than Ahsoka. And she's very much against this. Her self-confidence is very low right now. And Anakin's just sitting there like pushing it on her like, oh, yep, you got it. Good luck. Goes away. And Rex is like, what are your orders, Commander? And Ahsoka just very, quietly and sadly goes, I'll be on the bridge. And then Rex just looks at all the clones like, well, you heard her, boys. Back to work. Come on, move it, move it. I always found that funny.
Awaiting orders, Commander.
I'll be on the bridge.
Well, you heard her, boys. Back to work. Come on, move it, move it!
Another line from Rex that really stood out in this episode is like, the odds are very much against us. And Ahsoka goes, they always are. I'm like, yeah, I feel like that kind of sums up the Clone Wars, doesn't it? The odds are always against the Republic. But Ahsoka comes up with a plan, and a very interesting plan.
If we took the Resolute and angled her hull against the incoming frigates, the bridge and hangar deck would be relatively safe from their attack. We could draw them in and then use the bombers to outflank them.
Now, something that Dave talked about, again, going back to these Clone Wars featurettes and why I love them so much, Dave talks about how Ahsoka's plan here was inspired by none other than Grand Admiral Thrawn in Heir to the Empire. Because Thrawn did the exact same thing with the Star Destroyer there. And I remember, you guys, like, when I was watching through the featurette, I was like, oh, wait, did he do? Because, like, mind you, it's been, like, over a decade since I read the book. Like, I was 10 years old, I think. Back when I was little, I wasn't that big of a fan of reading. Even today, I still don't like reading. Like, now I'm at least at a point where, like, I can read books that, if it's something that I'm interested in, I can read about it. But even, like, when I was little, and we'd pick out, books from the library to read or something, I'd pick a Star Wars book, but even then, I still wasn't always, like, the most interested just because I found reading to be very boring. So one of these days I'm gonna have to go back and read Heir to the Empire, read through that trilogy, because I think now I would have like much more interest in it than I did back then. But once again, you guys, and I reiterate this all the time, it is so nice to have people that work on Star Wars actually care about Star Wars. What a novel concept.
The plan she uses where she rotates the Jedi cruiser on its side and the Y-wings fly out from underneath is actually a strategy that I read about in Timothy Zahn's novel, Heir to the Empire. And Grand Admiral Thrawn uses a very similar technique of turning his Star Destroyer on its side to lure the enemy in, thinking that the Star Destroyer is vulnerable. Then he launches all his TIE fighters out from underneath it around, and basically it's like a pinches movement. You capture your enemy by drawing them in.
And they start to go through the plan. Anakin crashes the Defender into the Lucre Hull. He's in an escape pod. The remaining droid ships, and also the music in this scene as well was super good, where the droid ships attack and then the bombers flank them. Oh, that was so good. Some of the clones are like kind of against the plan, and Ahsoka's like, no, we don't have any more time to think about this. Master Skywalker needs me now. He needs us now. And then freaking Yularen walks into the room, and he's the one that backs Ahsoka. Even after like everything that happened before, and he'd have every right to be mad at her, he ended up backing her plan, which was cool. And they go through the plan. The bombers start taking out the droid ships. I do love when they actually start going through the plan, and you see all the droids communicating with each other, and one of the droids, because his ship is getting bombarded, is just like, eh!
We've been outflanked. Affirmative.
And Wat Tambor's like, where is the captain? What is going on? Oh, idiots, the blockade has been broken. Another thing I just thought to talk about, you guys, Wat Tambor, man, I'm doing a great job staying consistent with this episode here, but Wat Tambor, for those who don't remember, he's that one guy in Attack of the Clones with the Separatist Council meeting that's going on, that Dooku's trying to gather everybody together, and he's the one guy that's like, the techno... is at your disposal, Count.
The Techno-Union Army is at your disposal, Count.
We didn't see any of that right here. We didn't see any of that. Gosh, he'd got to be annoying to listen to. Imagine having him do a podcast. Like, 75% of it would just be and every couple sentences it would be like annoyed with it yet. But then the episode ends with the invasion fleet coming out of hyperspace, and we see Obi-Wan and Mace Windu there.
Commander, the invasion fleet is coming out of hyperspace.
Ahsoka, this is Obi-Wan. May we begin our landing?
Yes, Master. You're cleared for ground assault.
I won't even ask where the rest of Anakin's fleet is, or why he's in an escape pod.
That's probably for the best.
Not only funny, but also like a good way to set up the next episode. So it's like, okay, we've got the air assault part of the mission done. Now we've got to do the ground assault. That's where Mace Windu and Obi-Wan come into play. Yeah, you guys, I really enjoyed this episode a lot. With the conversations between Anakin and Ahsoka and the development of Ahsoka's character, the battle scene at the end of the episode with the, turning of the Republic Venator and the bombers and everything. It was amazing. Yeah, this for me is definitely in my top 5 list of favorite Clone Wars episodes from season 1. We got to see Rex do a little bit in this episode. We got Yularen. As a minor thing that I liked about this episode, the Clone Trooper helmets, the designs for them were really cool. Killian Plunkett and his team did an amazing job with that. And with that, you guys, I think that is going to wrap up all my thoughts for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said before, any questions or comments that you guys have about Clone Wars Season 1, leave them in the comments below of this video. I'll probably do a community post at some point, so keep your eyes open for that. One of the things that I want to do with that video in a couple weeks' time is to get you guys involved in the conversation as well. I'll definitely be giving you guys my overall thoughts on Season 1, so something to look forward to. That's going to wrap us up for this week, you guys. Next week, we're going to be talking about Part 2 of this Ryloth arc called Innocence of Ryloth. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video with others to help support the channel, and I will see you guys next time.
We have completed the scan of the enemy ship. The ship is heavily damaged. All power is diverted to the forward shields. There is only one life form on board.
Oh!
The ship is heavily damaged. All power is diverted.
No, you insolent scraphead! Skywalker, what treachery is this? You have nothing to bargain with!
In that case, I'll be going. Oh, you can still have my ship.